Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Liana for LianaVibes.com, and in today's video we're going to go over why when seeking out a licensed therapist or a certified life coach that you should specifically seek out one that is narcissism or narcissistic informed. Before I begin, please like, subscribe, and share, and now let's get into the video. So for starters, there is a difference between a licensed therapist as well as a certified life coach. In general, licensed therapists focus on the present and the past, while a certified life coach is presently focused as well as the future. They both can work wonderfully together in conjunction, but most importantly is you want to be set up with somebody that is narcissism or narcissistically informed. What this means is a practitioner is very well in tuned with narcissism as to give their clients the best course of action and support, because surviving through narcissistic abuse is very unique compared to all types of other abuses. As we learned on this channel, it's very sinister the way a narcissist has the ability and capacity to abuse in the way that they abuse. So here are the following reasons why you want to look for a licensed therapist or a certified life coach who is narcissism or narcissistically informed. Number one is toxic neutrality. So you may often find this where a licensed therapist may take a neutral stance and not take a position against specific horrors. In many ways, you might find where they're just so understanding and may almost feel like they kind of quote unquote play both sides. This is very unfair to someone who's seeking services. It's the equivalent of someone saying, as long as you pay me, I'll understand you. One of the most prominent online figures of narcissism is Dr. Ramini, who is a licensed therapist. She's very vocal on narcissism and is really going against the grain to really inform mental health care professionals about narcissism, because not many are very aware of narcissism and narcissistic abuse. They're aware of the DSM diagnoses of narcissism. However, they're not in tune with highly antagonistic people or those with high narcissistic traits. In many cases, they don't even acknowledge this sphere exists. What this may lead to is gaslighting of narcissistic victims or survivors. The whole kumbaya attitude where we just all need to get along and we just need to give empathy and compassion. The fact of the matter is, telling a victim or survivor of narcissistic abuse that they must find empathy and compassion is completely damaging. Perhaps a victim or survivor may eventually get there, but it's not a prerequisite, nor is it a standard to say in order to heal from narcissism that you must get to empathy and compassion for the narcissist. The fact of the matter is, many abused and survivors of narcissistic abuse has given so much to a narcissist that to ask them to give them more empathy and compassion is completely ridiculous. It's egregious. Making it a forced goal to reach empathy and compassion, oftentimes quickly in sessions, is essentially minimizing their frustration, their pain, and their suffering. The most important part, and this is pulled from the internal family systems model, is that you've got to feel all the emotions that come up deeply for you. You need to pay attention to the frustration, the pain, and the anger. Sit with them so you can process them and therefore have a cathartic release of those feelings. Pain can be a great motivator, especially when you have a guide, whether that be a licensed therapist or a certified life coach, to help process these difficult emotions, to hold space for them, to validate them, because when you're going through narcissistic abuse, you're often gaslit and you're minimized. Therefore, you're never truly in tune with those emotions of feeling that you might have been wronged, but no, you can't feel that way. Let's just shut those feelings down and let's just move on to keep the status quo going, to keep the image up of a happy marriage or a happy relationship because it may present some sense of security or safety, right? The main premise and main goal of a licensed therapist or a certified life coach is to help you really get in tune with your deepest self, the part of yourself that you've been neglecting so long because you've been elevating a narcissist's life, their motives, their intentionalities, their wants and desires. Therefore, you can disengage from the false beliefs that got you entangled with a narcissist in the first place. So a bit of personal story of mine is that my narcissistic ex-husband and I, during the latter stages of a relationship, I was so desperate to make things work that I decided to pay out of pocket for a couples therapy session. We went to therapists that specialize in the Gottman method of therapy, as well as those that specialize in things like CBT or DBT, etc. I wanted to save the marriage that I was in because I valued the story of what being married was supposed to be like, what that meant for me, and what that meant as far as my childhood dreams of what success might look like. Unfortunately, I was not aware of narcissism and how bad it can actually get. In one case example, in one session, my narcissistic ex-husband triangulated our therapist, and now the entire session was about him trying to get into her personal life and making it seem as if he was the one in charge of the session. The therapist was kind of taken aback by this. But instinctually, I felt there was something very off about this dynamic where he would essentially feel like he took a position like, I'm in control. I'm the one in control of these sessions. You're not. Remember how we went over that with narcissists, they can do things like performative empathy? Well, in a session with a therapist, narcissists can perform as if they're actively engaged. However, instead, they're getting as much information to use against you later on, whether you be the mental health professional or you be the subject within the session in a couples therapy dynamic. Narcissists are very, very charming. They study human interaction so they can literally use that to their advantage. They're very advantageous, and they study people just as much as they study how to perform empathy. It's a logical, cognitive experience. It's one void of emotion. Therefore, when they're interacting with people, they're playing a very intricate play of chess, waiting for a simple mistake so they can win. Narcissists, by definition, are always in a win strategy model. They designate you as constantly the loser and them as the winner. There is no room for stalemate or equality. There is no team play. It's always them at the top, you at the bottom, and anything which tries to deviate from that dynamic, they will get frustrated. They will start to summon their narcissistic rage against you. And if they can't win alone, they will triangulate to win with an army against you. This is why with narcissists, their narcissistic supply is very, very important. As you saw from the story with my narcissistic ex-boyfriend, in his narcissistic supply, his group of guy friends, as I had shared, in his core group of friends, they did not hold each other accountable. These were boys that had a lot of resources and a lot of abundance of wealth that were freely accessible to them. And in their monthly guy get-togethers, they would show each other, a large group of them, as they would drink and play video games, videos and photos of their girlfriends doing explicit things, their naked bodies, having sex, giving blowjobs, performing sexual explicit material, and sharing it like it was Pokemon cards. Narcissists always need an audience, and narcissists will always need narcissistic supply because they need external validation, external feedback from their external world to deviate their attention from their shame and emptiness and void within. When looking for a licensed therapist or certified life coach, make sure you do your due diligence. Ask the questions in the consultation. Are you aware? Are you narcissistically aware? Are you informed about narcissism? Sadly, there's no accredited fellowship or sort of training program or module to become narcissistically informed. However, it's really the due diligence of the practitioner to educate them deeply and that they continuously grow within the community of understanding narcissism. Not just the DSM diagnostics, but those of antagonistic natures and those with high narcissistic personalities or traits. Number 2, balance, homeostasis. So I'm going to summon this quote. It's from a community, and it goes 9 by 19 parabellum, where in order to achieve peace, prepare for war. Everything and anything in life requires equilibrium, homeostasis. I always liken this to where the earth is positioned. It's positioned far enough from the sun so it doesn't burn, but close enough so it can sustain life. It is homeostasis. Our planet exists far away and yet close enough to the sun to sustain life. Everything in the universe requires balance. It's always on this tremendous journey of homeostasis, creating where there's equal forces of both the yin and the yang, the negative and positive. It's a dance. It's not this static situation or static destination. Homeostasis, equilibrium, is about a dance with balance. Therefore, if you're dealing with a narcissist who is extremely negative by definition, you will want someone in your corner that will give you the extreme positivity, meaning they take a stance. They take a stance against narcissism. They take a stance against antagonistic or those with high narcissistic traits. In order to bring that homeostasis, that equilibrium, you will need a practitioner that advocates against narcissism. Again, this is not about being this kumbaya, everything's gonna be fine, so therefore let's just toxic positivity our way out of it, basically gaslight and minimize as, that's okay, let's just all be friends and A-okay with each other. It doesn't work that way. If a licensed therapist or a certified life coach is not advocating for being narcissistically informed or taking a stance against narcissism, do not work with them. They will not be helpful and in many cases may actually be harmful, because narcissistic abusers and survivors have been dealing with a lot of dysfunctionality in their own realities because of the lies and illusions dictated by the narcissist. Oftentimes, the abused and the survivors will try to navigate their way into forming an identity. They have self-abandoned chronically, trying to keep a relationship or marriage going to maintain status quo. And it can be scary to reacquaint with self and starting to make choices and goals for themselves to basically break out of the systematic ways that the narcissist controlled their reality. Because in doing so, they will encounter grief. And those 5 stages of grief are very powerful. They're not this linear, organic path forward. It's a cyclical dance of 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, more steps forward, and more steps back. Always cyclical, so they can get a deeper understanding to truly understand yourself on what allowed this person to stay in your life that had no love for you. They just loved you as their narcissistic supply. We can't approach narcissists and narcissistic abuse with equality here. We need a profound approach of equity and justice. As a survivor, what you went through was wrong. And if no other channel has told you that, if no other person in your life has told you that what you survived through was wrong, then let me be the first to tell you, what you survived through, being narcissistically abused, was wrong. It was not justified. It was unwarranted. These narcissists, antagonistic people, or those with high narcissistic traits, are selfish. They will never do the healing work that you will do. Yes, it's horrible that you will do the type of work that they can never do. Not only will you try to heal yourself, you're going to try to do the healing work that the narcissist, your abuser, could never do. And there is a lot of responsibility on the shoulders of those who've been narcissistically abused, survivors of narcissistic abuse. A lot of work and heavy responsibility. But that freedom, that taste of healing is worth it. Because you are worth it, and you've always been worth it. Number 3 is reactive abuse. So with reactive abuse, you gain these narcissistic fleas, as we call it in the community, where essentially because you are now self-abandoning and your reality is skewed, where it relies on the narcissist's input, you start behaving like the narcissist does. You may start acting where you need the validation, where you may encounter narcissistic rage, where you may start to triangulate just for some semblance of normalcy and feeling like, I'm not alone in this reality, right? This horrific reality is not mine, but I need others in my life maybe even supply to help me keep going, because this fantasy world that I'm so addicted to is painful, but I don't know anything besides this. When you work with a licensed therapist or a certified life coach who is not narcissistically informed or narcissism informed, they may be looking at your reactive abuse and treating those rather than treating them as symptoms of being narcissistically abused. By not being narcissistically informed, they lack the ability to find the causation of why you're reacting the way you are. This reminds me of a quote by Debbie Hope where it goes, "Before you diagnose yourself with depression or low self-esteem, first make sure that you are not, in fact, just surrounded by assholes." The main goal of finding support while you're in or after narcissistic abuse is to build your relationship with your internal wisdom. Because for those who've survived through narcissistic abuse, the gaslighting, the minimizing, the hurt, and the pain, it's always engaging where you are separated from your truest self, where you cannot rely on self-trust because you've now created a relationship where you distrust yourself. By strengthening that bond with your truth, you develop a relationship where you can become strong in making empowering decisions that will change your life forever. What if you're with a narcissist and you both want to engage in some counseling, some couples therapy? It should be something that both partners want to do, as well as going to individual therapy or having a certified life coach in conjunction. The combination of both can elevate and become more empowering, as you might utilize some of the things you learned within the therapy sessions with your narcissistic partner. But why would somebody need a mental health professional, a narcissistically informed life coach or therapist? The reason is because of the severe isolation that you may feel while you're in a relationship with a narcissist. You can go to your friends and family. However, if they have not been narcissistically abused before, they really wouldn't know, because it takes a specific person who's went through those specific fires to really see and honor like you're one of us. You definitely went through what I've went through. Because once you heal from your narcissistic abuser, it really opens you to a much wider range of your reality, of your true authenticity. You see the abilities of what you can survive through, and you start to see the world, the ugliness and disarray that exists within it. Narcissists will never take the responsibility that you're looking for from them. So I ask you, will you do the job of finding responsibility for yourself within to know that you have value, worth, and meaning, purpose for your pain? If you're looking for a certified narcissistically informed life coach, you can contact me at my website at www.lianavibes.com. And that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope it was helpful. Until next time, I'll catch you on the next one. Stay well and vibe well.